Hey, what's up, guys? Combat Critique here. Let's take a look at this upcoming fight between Zaleski dos Santos and Rinat Fakhretdinov. So let's get started. If you look at the records of these two guys, Zaleski has fought 31 total fights and he's won 24 of his 31 fights, lost just 7. If we talk about his 24 wins, he has 14 wins via knockout, 3 via submission, and 7 via decision. So this man is really a knockout machine and he does not have a lot of submissions. He has a few. If we talk about his 7 losses, he has just 1 loss via knockout, 2 losses via submission, and 4 losses via decision. So it's hard to knock him out. He has just lost once in 31 fights via knockout. And if we talk about the record of Rinat, so Rinat has 22 fights and he's won 21 of his 22 fights, lost just one. If we talk about his 21 wins, he has 11 wins via knockout. So again, both these guys like to stand and bang and they have heavy hands. Rinat also has 6 wins via submission and 4 via decision. So he has a good number of submission wins compared to his overall wins. And if we talk about his 1 loss, that came before he was in the UFC and it was a decision loss. Now let's take a look at the physical and career stats of both these guys. Starting with the height, height is 5'11 for Zaleski and it is 6 for Rinat. So Rinat will have a very slight 1 inch height advantage. Weight is even at 170 pounds for both these guys. Reach is 73 inches for Zaleski and it is 74 inches for Rinat. So Rinat will also have a very slight 1 inch reach advantage. If we talk about the stance, both these guys are orthodox stance fighters. And if we talk about the age, Zaleski is the older fighter and Rinat is pretty young. If we talk about Zaleski, I think he is nearing the end of his career and he has looked good in the few performances that he's had in recent time, but I think he is due for a career, changing loss, and this might be the fight. Now let's take a look at the career statistics, starting with the strikes landed per minute. So this denotes the number of significant strikes that you land on your opponents per minute on average. This is 4.48 for Zaleski and 3.2 for Rinat. So in this case, Zaleski is landing quite a bit more strikes on his opponents per minute and he will have an advantage here. Striking accuracy is 41% for Zaleski and it is 67% for Rinat. So Rinat will have an advantage here. He is more accurate with his strikes. Next up, we have the strikes absorbed per minute. This signifies the number of significant strikes that you absorb from your opponents per minute. This is 3.1 for Zaleski and it is just 0.78, really low for Rinat. In this case, you want this number to be as low as possible because you are getting hit lesser, and here the advantage obviously goes to Rinat. Striking defense is 58% for Zaleski, which is not bad, and it is 57% for Rinat. So both these guys are pretty close, but a very slight advantage goes to Zaleski. Overall, in the striking, it is pretty much even between these two guys. Two of the four metrics that we have seen are in favor of Zaleski, and the other two are in favor of Rinat. Now let's take a look at the wrestling, grappling, and BJJ statistic. Starting with the takedown average, it is 0.47 for Zaleski and it is 5.82 for Rinat. So Rinat has a huge advantage in the wrestling department. He uses wrestling in his game a lot more than Zaleski. Takedown accuracy is just 14% for Zaleski, whereas it is 63% for Rinat. So again, huge advantage goes to Rinat. Takedown defense is 65% for Zaleski, and this has held up in his previous performance against Abu Bakr Nurmagomedov. If we talk about Rinat, his takedown defense is 100%. He's not had a lot of UFC fights. He has just 3 UFC fights, and in all 3 of those, his opponents never really tried taking him down. That is why his takedown defense is 100%. Next up, we have the submission average, which is zero point 0.4 for Zaleski and 0.5 for Rinat. So Rinat has a very slight advantage, even though both these guys have submissions on their record, submission wins on their record. Now let's take a look at the significant strikes by position for both these guys. Starting with Zaleski, 72% of all his strikes are from the standing position, 22% from the clinch, and just 6% on the ground. So Zaleski really likes to keep it standing. He doesn't do a lot of ground and pound. If we compare this with Rinat, 29% of all his strikes are from the standing position, 20% from the clinch, and a substantial 51% on the ground. So he has that Russian combat sambo background and he makes full use of it. He will go for the takedown and will land ground and pound. Now let's take a look at the significant strikes by target. 59% of all the strikes that Zaleski throws are to the head, 24% to the body, and 17% to the leg. If we compare this with Zaleski, 72% of all his strikes are to the head, 14% to the body, and also 14% to the leg. So both these guys are pretty well diversified. I'll say Zaleski goes to the body more often than Rinat, and Rinat goes to the head. He is head hunting more often than Zaleski. Now let's take a look at some of the previous performances of these two guys, starting with Zaleski. So Zaleski in his last fight beat Abubakar Nurmagomedov in a good fight. This fight he stuffed takedowns of Abu Bakr and landed more strikes to win this fight via split decision. This happened in June of this year. Prior to that, he also beat Benoit Saint Denis via unanimous decision, and this was a 3-round fight. In this fight, Benoit Saint Denis got 2 takedowns, but Zaleski outstruck him to win a unanimous decision. Prior to this fight, Zaleski lost to Muslim Salikov, and this was a really close fight. A lot of people think Zaleski was robbed. If we talk about the fight prior to this, he beat Alexei Kunchenko, and in this fight, Zaleski got 2 takedowns and also outstruck Alexei to win this fight via unanimous decision. Prior to this, he got KO'd by Li Jingliang. This fight happened in 2019, so this man has not had a lot of fights. He is not really active in recent times. If we see, he has a fight in 2021 and then straight away a fight in 2023. He was kind of missing for about 1.5 years in between. If we talk about the fight prior to that, he beat Curtis Melendez and he basically subbed him by a rear naked choke in the very first round. He also beat Luigi Vendramini by a flying knee in the second round. Now let's take a look at the record of Rinat. So Rinat in his last fight beat Kevin Lee and he finished him by a guillotine choke, knocked him down, then sunk in the choke and finished the fight in the very first round. This fight happened in July of this year. If we talk about the fight prior to this, he beat Brian Battle, and in this fight again he got the knockdown and finished. Not finished. He won by unanimous decision. It was a 3-round fight. Rinat outstruck him and landed 7 takedowns on Brian to win this fight. If we talk about the fight before that, he beat Andreas Michelidis, and in this fight also he struck Andreas and got 5 takedowns. Again, he won by unanimous decision. So Rinat does not really have a lot of UFC fights. He's had just 3 fights, but he has shown that he is a top caliber guy. He has a background in combat sambo. And for these reasons, if I have to pick a winner, I think I'll go with the hype. I'll pick Rinat to win this fight. I think he is having a lot of momentum, a lot of fan base on his side. The UFC is actively promoting him. Also, he is the younger fighter and Zaleski is nearing the end of his UFC career. In the striking department, which is the favorite department of Zaleski, the fight is pretty close. And if we talk about the wrestling, I think Rinat has an advantage over Zaleski. Even though Zaleski has shown that he has a good takedown defense, I think Rinat can take him down and hold him there for the majority of the 3 rounds and win a decision. For these reasons, I am picking him to win the fight. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video.